Welcome to today's presentation. We're coming to you from CFB Trenton, and I would like to introduce my colleague, Cindy Tromp, who's with me today. And I'm Lisa Rafasi, and we make up 2 of the 5-person team here in health promotion at 8 Wing Trenton. We are going to begin this first session of 10 on a wellness series. And today's topic is the wellness equation. So a bit of a launch pad for where we're headed over the next 10 sessions. And we welcome your questions towards the end, or there will be opportunities throughout today for us to have some interactive conversations. But for the purpose of those who may be partaking virtually as a recorded presentation, we welcome any questions that you would forward to us via email. So without further ado, we'll get started with Introduction to Your Well-Being, the Wellness Equation. So you're going to see this first slide gives us a definition of wellness, and really important for us to understand a few of these definitions as we start to map out what our wellness or fitness equation will look like. So as you can see on the slide, wellness is about your mental and physical soundness, physical well-being, especially when maintained or achieved through good diet or regular exercise. It's an active process of becoming aware and of making choices towards a healthy and fulfilling life. The really important piece is that it's not static. So it changes. You may have a really great day. You might be nutritionally sound. You might be getting your workout in. You may be finding some time to journal or meditate. Maybe your screen time is less than you'd want it to be, and everything is great. And then the next day you may wake up and might have a setback, whether you're feeling under the weather, you have a seasonal cold, maybe something happens with the kids' school or at work, and now your wellness equation is perfect as it was the previous day. So it's really important to recognize that life can be a barrier, but we also want to work with that, knowing that, on what those changes can look like from day to day, week to week, so you maintain some success in your overall wellness achievement. So a couple definitions. We're also going to talk about the many dimensions of wellness. We refer to those also as pillars. And you're going to see that throughout the project, which is about 10 series or 10 months long, we will place some emphasis on dimensions such as physical, mental, social, and nutritional. An opportunity here for us just to remind you what health promotion and PSP is all about. We have 4 main portfolios, and the ones listed there as dimensions are much in keeping with what the health promotion mandate is for providing that morale welfare programming for the CAF community far and wide in those topics. So really no coincidence that today we are going to talk about wellness, which definitely falls into one of our many portfolios. We also want to note that the dimensions when we talk about wellness, they could also include many other things like our occupational wellness, our financial wellness, our spiritual wellness, and those will be woven throughout our initiatives that will be included in the months ahead. So bit of a launch pad as we head through. So this next slide reminds us that we're very well aligned with the national defense, with a balanced strategy in place to in fact guide us not only as the CAF as a whole, but wherever you're sitting, whether you're on an outcan posting, whether you're in Canada, such as we are, wherever you are, this balanced strategy has been put in place to guide and align us with efforts to enhance this culture of fitness that we're trying to achieve optimal physical performance. But it's also important to note that everything we do in morale welfare programming has the overarching focus or emphasis of operational effectiveness. So the balance strategy, which came about several years ago, you'll see there's a slide graphic that takes a look at what the strategy is trying to achieve and the levels of engagement that we're hoping to succeed with. And you're going to see that obviously there's this emphasis with the calf wide, with the command level, with the base wing unit level, with your family and your friends, and then certainly the individual. So everything we're talking about today also has considered this national strategy as a guiding tool, as the goals and the objectives are shared. So back to balance, when we are taking a look at that strategic framework, it's important to note that years ago, the Surgeon General messaging, PSP, all of our governing bodies, Director of Force Health Protection, National Health Promotion, Fitness, Sports, Recreation, all of our collaborators and partners, when we took a look at the performance behaviors that we felt were affecting physical performance, that we wanted to place some emphasis on, the 4 are listed there on the slide. So injury prevention, performance nutrition, physical activity, and sleep or rest. So you're also going to see that throughout the next 10 months, we're going to place some special emphasis on those, we call them P4 behaviors, those performance behaviors that we're going to place a lot of emphasis and energy towards. So a couple more definitions as we get into it, and there will be an opportunity for some shared information and discussion coming up, because I would love to hear or kick around what some people are having success with the following definitions that we're going to talk about. So physical activity, any movement that uses energy. So it's important to note the differences, because so often people think I'm quite physically active, but my fitness level isn't where I want it to be. And perhaps there are areas that I haven't considered, because physical activity, as you'll see, is very different than just that term exercise. So exercise is a physical activity that's structured and done at a certain intensity for a length of time. And in fact, people may be very physically active, but that might not be structured and done at a certain intensity for a certain length of time to yield you the results or the success that you're hoping to achieve. Physical fitness, this definition, it refers to the capacity of the heart, the blood vessels, the lungs, muscles to function at a high level of efficiency. So really important to just break out what those definitions are and the difference, and how that could contribute to what you're achieving with your goals. Next definition, almost to the definition part. This one is about mental fitness. And we do not refer to physical fitness anymore without also referring to mental fitness, because we believe in health promotion, and within PSP, we believe the two are intertwined. We believe that your physical fitness is as important as your mental fitness. And we also want to work on the stigma associated with the mental fitness piece. And the only way we can do that is to start comparing them, regard them at the same level, and recognize that we need to be practicing mental fitness just as much as we need to be practicing our physical fitness, or getting out and doing our exercise or our active living. So you'll see this definition talks about being psychologically and emotionally resilient, to be able to spring or bounce back after struggling through a difficult and stressful time, and the ability to move forward, to grow, to develop. So really important, years ago, this started to be a bit of a buzz term, and something we were hearing lots of people refer to. The really good news now is it is a topic that people are much more comfortable speaking about, because in every person's life, mental fitness will be something that we have to consider. So the good news is it's paired with the other a very important term, physical fitness. And then the last definition is active living. So we have a governing body, Health Canada, that for many years has reminded us of the importance of active living. That definition just reminds us that that's a way of life in which physical activity is valued and integrated into daily life. So we have Health Canada making sure we're aware of that term, that concept, that practice. But we also have national defense that has this balance strategy that is also encouraging us to have these performance and behaviors that all contribute to our overall health. So lots of governing bodies making sure we're aware of what's important for our wellness. And active living, a great example of that, when you value physical activity and you integrate it into daily life. You can probably think of a child's birthday party years ago where I know personally growing up where I grew up, it was very popular to take your kids to a fast food restaurant and maybe have some time in the jungle gym. Well, now those sorts of things are not as popular. Active living, as an example, for a birthday party for a child might be that we take a group skating or bowling, or maybe we all meet at the local pool and the kids are having a great time interacting while being active. And that, although they're still attending a birthday party and they're still getting to do the things that birthday parties tend to offer, in this case, that example would be taking a look at what active living is about and now applying it to something we do every year for our kids, our friends, our family members, and now making it a bit more physically active focused. Okay, so this next slide just reminds us how important it is, the benefits that are associated with regular exercise. And again, there's no shortage of governing bodies in our country leading the charge, not only from national defense perspective, but for population health, making sure that we know that the long-term benefits of a regular regime of wellness will decrease so many risks when we look at healthcare concerns. And the slide lists those, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, osteoporosis, cholesterol levels, body fat issues, your stress levels, increased sleep would be a benefit, and increased metabolism would be a benefit. The caloric expenditure that goes up when you work out, your energy level, increased posture balance, self-esteem, the list can go on. So take, for example, something like osteoporosis, which in the last decade, we've heard far more people being diagnosed with a bone density issue. One of the first things that a practitioner might suggest for somebody whose bone density issue is climbing in the wrong direction is weight-bearing activities. So they may suggest that they start a walking regime, or they may suggest they purchase a pair of hand weights and start doing some weight-bearing activities to increase the bone density. So there's a perfect example how a health situation diagnosis paired with physical exercise and a purposeful approach to that concern can absolutely yield success with the wellness concern of, in this case, osteoporosis. So really important in this next slide that we just recognize that, and I mentioned this quickly already, but the importance of both the mental and physical piece. And we want those concepts to be regarded at every level of that strategic framework that we saw several slides back. So certainly for the CAF member, we want you to recognize the importance of both mental, physical fitness, but that is best achieved when everybody around you is working on the same culture change. And that culture shift or change is all about embracing wellness at every corner. So that then means when you return home after a day's work, your family is embracing both concepts. That maybe while at work, your unit is placing emphasis on that. And then certainly your local base or wing or garrison or station where you're working. And then certainly the CAF as a whole, we know have placed emphasis on both of those components, mental and physical fitness. So now we're going to get into the concept of a fitness equation. And this slide just asks us a couple questions here. And what does your fitness equation look like? So you'll see that we're considering, to the right of the slide, many different things. So physical fitness, strength, core. We are also considering mental fitness, self-care, injury prevention, flexibility, cross-training, nutritional wellness, stress management, anger management, coping mechanisms, alcohol use, and controlling the low risk of substance abuse. So there's a lot of factors that we consider when we take a look at what we're currently doing as this overall equation for our wellness. So this time, I would love for you to either in the chat or feel free to turn off your microphone or turn on your microphone and let us know what sorts of things are you hitting the mark on. And so, for example, Cindy and I will start by sharing, and then certainly for our participants, feel free to either raise your hand or just turn on your microphone and we'll see that. But me personally, I would probably get the cardiovascular training, check, sound nutrition, check, injury prevention, check. But there are definitely some things in my equation that I could probably do some work on. Cindy, do you want to share what your equation factors look like and where you come into this?
Yeah, so definitely physical fitness, working on that pretty much daily and trying to incorporate more mental fitness within my daily and weekly schedule. Injury prevention for sure, trying to up my flexibility training and pacing my different workouts, alternating between high and low workouts throughout the week. Nutritional wellness, I think, check on that for sure. And social wellness, well, I think we all can work on that on a regular basis. So
thank you. Anybody else want to share which ones of this list that they are seeing success with as an exercise to see maybe which ones you might want to put some emphasis to? So Ivana, good. I just saw your microphone turn on.
I'm actually not doing very well on many of those. Mental fitness, I'm okay with. Physical fitness, the last little bit since we've come to Poland, has not been very good. Summers when we're traveling and walking all around town, everything, it's great. But then when we're not traveling, it's not so good. Nutritional,
understandable. Yes.
I'm about halfway. Yeah, I make some good choices and some not good choices. So there's a lot of room for improvement.
Okay, and that's what this exercise is about, is just being mindful to reflect on what we are doing and where we may need some energy or some emphasis. Anybody else want to share? Okay, thank you, Ivana. So moving along, the opportunity to reflect is usually revealing of where we may need some work. So Cindy, myself, Ivana, we all shared our examples of things that we were doing well. And there certainly were a lot of things on our list, or some things on our list that we could have done or we could place some emphasis on. So the next step is to take a look at what our goals are. So Ivana gave a great example of active living when you're traveling and you're exploring and you're out getting lots of steps in and you're walking everywhere and sightseeing. What an amazing way to maintain your physical activity, to be very physically active. And at the same time, that's great for your social wellness, your mental health. But then all of a sudden, what's the biggest barrier that we're facing shortly with outdoor activity? And that's the weather and as it changes. And what's the biggest barrier we faced in the last year and a half was indoor activity. So recognizing that there are lots of barriers in place without us even having to consider the whole motivational piece, access to what we need to achieve our wellness goals, energy, ability, some cases cost, some cases time, some cases the knowledge of what we need to do. So this next slide reminds us that maybe we should consider what our goals are. And goals, just like the whole concept of wellness, they're also not static. They don't have to stay the same. I could wake up this morning and say, you know, my goal for the next month, I'm going to try to achieve 10,000 steps every single day. And then, you know, I might have a calf muscle tear in a week or two, and I might have to revisit those goals. And I might have to say, you know what, I'm going to work on my strength training because the 10,000 steps for the next month is no longer a realistic goal that I can achieve. So this slide reminds us that our goals are really important. And in the world of goal setting, there are also many reminders or guidelines on what works best for goal setting. And one of the things we're reminded of is to start incrementally on those goals. You don't want to wake up tomorrow and write in your journal 25 goals that you want to achieve in the next year or so. You want to incrementally take a look at those and be reasonable about what you're able to achieve so that you are able to have some success. And we're going to break that down at greater length. So when we come up with a goal, and if you have a goal that you're considering and you want to share, certainly feel free. But I'm going to give you a couple examples as we work through this acronym called SMART. So when you have a goal, we usually apply this process of setting SMART goals to that exercise. So for example, let's say next March, I want to be able to run a half marathon. So that's pretty specific. I want to be able to achieve a half marathon by next March. It's very measurable. I have benchmarks to know that I'm succeeding, you know, as the months come on. I will want to see that my kilometers are getting up to the 20K mark. Is it achievable? Does it allow me to stretch, but it's within reasonable, ambitious, but not impossible feats? So it would need to be achievable. Now, let's say I have this goal of running a half marathon in March, but right now I'm nursing an injury. Right away, when I apply this SMART goal acronym, now it no longer looks as achievable or less achievable than I once thought. So if I'm injured currently, March might not any longer be realistic and or achievable. The next part of the SMART goal setting pattern is the realistic piece, the R. Does this matter to you? And is this realistic that I'm going to achieve it? And then the time piece is, can I record my progress? Yep, certainly I can record my progress. So this would, in fact, this could be an achievable goal, with the exception of my example of maybe having an injury. We often in the world of wellness will see people come to us and say, this is my goal. How can you suggest I achieve it? And this is an acronym that we would work with them. And often when they journal that out, they will see, wait a second, I don't know how measurable this is, or wait a second, this is not achievable. You know, we're facing the winter. I don't have access to a treadmill right now. My gym is closed as a result of COVID. I'm not going to be able to achieve this. So I maybe need to come up with another goal. So it's a great opportunity to find out if this really is going to work for you. So does anybody have a goal as an example that they want to share? And then we could apply the specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-oriented components to. I gave you an example of running a half marathon, and no worries if there isn't anybody that wants to offer up a goal. If not, we'll just carry along and we'll use that example of the half marathon as one to guide you as you're thinking of what your goals are. So for example, let's say it's around nutrition or sound nutrition, improving your daily diet. So very specific, what's that going to look like? Are you going to list foods that you're going to try to avoid? Are you going to enhance your fruit and vegetable food group? Are you going to try vegetarian options more often? You would be very specific of what that looked like. Measurable, you would have check-ins. with benchmarks to know that you're succeeding. Achievable, you would want to make sure that this is not impossible. So for example, as part of your nutritional goal, you said you never wanted to eat a certain food again, but yet that was your most favorite food ever. That might not be achievable, because then your mental will play on your choices, and now the only thing you'll be thinking about is what you've restricted yourself from. The realistic piece doesn't matter to you. Maybe you have a friend or a family member that you saw see great success with that, and they have reminded you of all the benefits they received from changing their diet. That might make this whole SMART goal matter more to you. And then certainly the time, can you record your progress? We always suggest coming up with obviously a realistic timing, and check-ins fairly often, but rarely when it comes to nutrition, only evaluating your success one way. So that would be another example of how we would weigh the SMART acronym. So making an action plan. So this is the part where you get to reflect on all those factors of the overall equation for wellness, and what are areas that in fact you want to place some more emphasis on. So we shared, a few of the things that we were doing. This would be the opportunity now. Are the things that I'm not doing that I want to add into my equation? And the great news is you get to reflect, take a bit of an inventory, and then decide moving forward what that's going to look like. Where will I place my emphasis? I've got the steps down. I'm getting my 10,000 plus steps a day. I think I'd like to stretch more, or I think I would want to incorporate more yoga into my regime. So an opportunity to take a look at what areas need your emphasis. And then certainly the motivation piece is also an opportunity. When you come up with a goal, that is very motivating to you to achieve that success, there is the opportunity for your planning and your actual execution of this goal to yield the result that you're hoping to achieve. So you're going to see that we want you to start to consider that transition of I should do this to I want to do this. I want to work out today. I want to make great choices with my nutrition. I want to meditate more often. I want to do yoga more often, because the minute is something you want to do, then certainly the barrier of time, the barrier of interest, the barrier of access, those all become secondary to your motivation piece that'll drive you. So we also suggest that you should identify solutions to overcome those obstacles. So what are some of the big obstacles? Anybody want to share what the obstacles are? Ivana gave us a great example of when you're traveling and you're out sightseeing and you're getting lots of steps. So one of the obstacles is that we don't get to be on holidays or traveling often. So that might be a barrier. But can anybody think of another barrier that you would have to look for a solution to overcome that? Any barriers? Is time a barrier? Yeah, Cindy's saying yes. Time management, absolutely. Anything else getting in the way? Access, for sure. I know that as an example, we're in the field of health and wellness. And understandably, right now, our gyms are open to CAF members only on the wing. And we understand that, because operationally, we see the operational effectiveness piece, but access to a facility is certainly one of the barriers. So depending on what it is that we're doing, let's say we love doing the elliptical trainer, or we love taking classes, and that is not an option. We have to now come up with a solution to overcome that obstacle, because our choice of exercise in this case is not an option. So there will be monthly challenges that we're going to, that we have designed to help you with your action plan, and that hopefully will support your behavior change. But the most important part about behavior change and making a goal and trying to stick with it is to be very patient. There are two scientists that came up with the concept of the stages of change. Their names are Prochaska and de Clemente. And those two scientists suggested the behavior change takes a good 6 months for people to be able to maintain a positive behavior change or a habit that is new to them. So that's the other thing about SMART goal setting, is to also recognize that you may see some great success at the end of month 1, and you may continue to see that success at the end of month 2. But the piece about maintaining change is always revisiting those goals so that you're able to get through the behavior change and be successful. So it's no longer a goal that you want to achieve, it's just part of your life. And that's why we also hear in the industry so much about lifestyle changes, lifestyle choices. These aren't things that we just set out to do for a month or 3 or 4. These are things that we make changes for life. Okay, so the next slide talks about motivation. We always ask the question, are you ready? Are you ready for a change? Are you ready to wake up tomorrow and start journaling and reflecting on the things that maybe you want to place some emphasis on? And the readiness piece is important. So will be your choices, your commitment, and your time. You're going to want to build in some opportunities that may, or I should say, some challenges that may get in the way of your goal setting, and recognizing that life in some cases will happen. But don't worry that if 1 day or 2 days don't go perfectly as planned, that those are just considered mini lapses. That doesn't mean your goal planning is over. Your personal values may come into play, purpose, reason, your desired outcome, your emotional connection, both positive and negative, to what your goal is. The reward piece, how are you going to reward yourself for the goals that you're achieving, the successes that you're seeing? And then the other piece is making sure you're considering the balance of life. So we know that time management is a huge piece. We also know that with time, there's so many things that we're trying to juggle. So recognizing when you're trying to motivate yourself, you're also being realistic about what that looks like. You might not want to wake up tomorrow and say, I want to work out 2 hours a day. Yes, you're very motivated to see success and to see positive change, but the life balance concept might get in the way of that, because you may not be able to find 2 hours just for you to have a fitness regime or a workout that is part of your new goal. So just recognizing those readiness pieces for motivation. This next slide talks about tracking your progress. And you've probably noticed throughout the presentation, I've talked a lot about journaling. And that's on purpose, because the industry statistics suggest that the people that in fact write down, reflect, and journal their days, their success, their nutrition intake, their workouts, their mood, their sleep, they, as a rule, have more success with the maintaining of a behavior change. That journaling, and it doesn't have to be a journal, it could be an app. It could be handwritten in your day timer. It could be super simple, or depending on how technologically savvy you are, it can be a little more complex. But that piece of tracking your progress is built into most successful lifestyle programs. Whenever anybody's trying to make a positive change, there usually is journaling involved. So there's some examples here of tracking your progress. So you might want to track your steps. You might want to track your water intake, your caffeine level. We all have personal sensitivities to caffeine. Maybe we want to keep track of that and try to keep our coffee intake under 2 to 3 units a day. Our mental exercises. You might want to track your stress levels, your sleep, really important. One of the 4 performance behaviors that the balanced strategy reminds us of, that without sleep, so much of what we're talking about won't be easy to achieve. Concentration, you might want to be able to track that, how many veggies and fruit you're having, your nutrition choices, what your resting heart rate looks like, what your blood pressure looks like, your screen time, stretching, cross training, your gym time. And boy, so many of us are wearing Fitbits, Apple Watches, any kind of facsimile of this sort of product is available to us to track so many of these wellness initiatives. But I also encourage you to think of other ways how that is tracked, not just maybe your watch or something you wear on your person. Certainly just knowing what that looks like throughout the day will help you achieve success with tracking that progress or keeping track of what you're achieving. So what is the big deal about it? I've talked about that a little bit. It will enhance your well-being on pretty well every level. Like the other day, we had a gentleman come in for a smoking cessation appointment. We call that Butt Out, that program. And one of the first things we do is talk to them about the importance of journaling and writing things down. You know, what motivates you to smoke and what's motivating you to quit. And what did that feel like, and how was that day, and you know, what were the things that got in the way of you feeling great about your decision, and what were the things that really secured your decision. So this slide just reminds us that journaling allows us to be self-aware. We get to develop some self-understanding. It paints us a bit of a picture. You know, it gives us an opportunity to inventory what our patterns are. Years ago, I used to teach a nutritional science course at the college level. And one of the projects that students had to do was they had to do a nutritional analysis, and they used an online app for that. And they had to journal, chronicle 3 days worth of nutrition. And so many students would show up saying, I cannot believe what I've ingested over the last 3 days in the way of sodium or fat or any of the things that they were sugar watching to eliminate, not eliminate, but to monitor or modify. So sometimes it paints a picture when we journal of our patterns that maybe we weren't even aware of, that there's a certain time of day that you're always tired, or there's a certain time of day that you're always hungry, or maybe the workout that you did at 7:30 in the morning felt better than any other workout at any other time of the day. So those are some of the things that might be revealed as you go through the journaling process. So challenge one. Challenge one for us is to take a look at that process of journaling. And it doesn't matter about the medium. It can be an app, it can be digital, it can be paper, it could be an online diary, it could be a personal diary. Like I said, it could be your day timer. And to have fun with 30 days of journaling. So sometimes we would say, you know, pick one goal. Let's say for the next 30 days, we suggested you take a look at a few goals, but one of them is journaling. We're pretty sure that as you journal, you start to realize things about yourself that perhaps you weren't aware of. So I encourage you, I challenge you for the next 30 days to give it a try. We have a course that the CAF has been delivering for years called the Weight Wellness Lifestyle Program. A very comprehensive, full of great content, nutrition, physical fitness, stress management. And that particular course starts off by giving every participant a 2-week look, or well, a journal to look at over 6 months. But the first emphasis is in this journal 2 weeks, where people are encouraged to write down absolutely everything. And some people will say by day 3 of journaling, I don't need to journal day 4, 5, 6, 7 to 14. I know exactly what I'm going to write because my patterns are similar day to day. So really fun with it if you choose to accept that challenge of journaling the things that maybe you're wanting insight on about you. What are your barriers? What goes well? Are your goals really smart? How do I know that I'm having success at the goals that I've come up with? Maybe the thought for the day, what that day felt like for you. The sky's the limit with this, and we really encourage you to try this practice of journaling, all for the health of it and what that will yield for you as you are on this quest for overall wellness. So that last slide, that's just an opportunity for us to remind you that bases across the world are set up with health promotion PSP teams that are here for you and for your morale welfare programming, and recognizing that most bases have a team of us that are all in this role to help the culture shift around wellness. And today, as you know, we talked about wellness, taking a look at our overall equation, deciphering some of those definitions and what they look like.